Hey guys, I wanted to show you how to calibrate your gauge. Now everyone that has hermit crabs should have a digital gauge. Now this gauge does need to be placed at the center of the tank off of the substrate to get an accurate reading. Now this gauge reads the heat and the humidity. Now during transport, when you purchase your gauge from the trucks to the stores and things like that, they get manhandled and it throws off the gauge. So we need to calibrate it to make sure what the humidity is reading when we test it. Most of the time they're off by 1 or 2. The numbers that we're looking for when we calibrate this gauge is 75 humidity. We don't look at the heat. The heat is only what the temperature of the location you have the gauge currently in. So what we're looking for is the humidity. Now what we're going to need is a cap, a soda cap, water cap, something small, and I like to use a container because it does give it a nice tight seal. If you do use a Ziploc bag, you want to leave the air inside the Ziploc bag. Now this process is going to take 24 hours. We don't want to open the container anytime before that. There is a little myth that says 12 hours for calibration, but that's not accurate. You need an actual 24 hours to actually get an accurate reading. So all you're gonna need is regular table salt. You can use whatever table salt you have and tap water. Now what we're going to do is add some water to the cap. Now what we're looking for is just a slushy consistency. We just want to cover the salt a little bit. If you have too much, but this is what it should look like. It should look like slushy. If you do have too much water, the only way to know for sure is to tip it over. Nothing comes out, then it's perfect. Now you're going to leave this, like I mentioned, inside this container for 24 hours. You're going to put the lid on and you're going to place it somewhere in your home that it's not going to be disturbed. Like I mentioned, you're not going to open it until the 24-hour mark. So now let's say the 24-hour mark hits. We're going to open up the container and we're going to see how off the gauge is. This has not been calibrated. I did previously, but this is just for show. But let's just say my gauge is reading 76. And like I mentioned, we're looking for 75. So we know that it's one number higher. So when we place this gauge inside our tank at the center of the tank off of the substrate, we know that we have to subtract one number. So we're aiming for 75. So if your gauge is lower than 75 or even more higher than 1 or 2, whatever it is, then you're going to do the math. You're going to add or subtract how long or how much it's off. I like to write on the back or Sharpie marker how what were the numbers, so I never forget. So I know that it was 76, so I know that I need to subtract 1. So I hope this was helpful. See you in the next one.